Speaker Hackney. It's our second event today together. Representative Glazer, Representative Stan, Senator Stein, Representative Ross, and all the others who aren't physically here, who are here in support and actually spiritually. Harry, it's great to see you here from the Ethics Commission. We appreciate that. And Judge Farmer, thank you very much for your participation today. And for chairing the commission, we thank you very much. You remember right after I was elected this morning and I had a press conference with some of you all and said that it was a new day, that we would throw open the windows of state government and let the sun shine in and demand the highest standards of ethics from people in public service and North Carolina state employees. And I believe that's what's happening. The folks in this state have every right to expect and deserve integrity and honest services from their public servants. And this General Assembly, both the House and the Senate, has really agreed and has stepped up to help us put into place laws that attest to that. All of us want to know that our public servants are honest. These two young children here might someday decide to run for office, and you would want them to think it was a worthy and honorable place to spend your life. And all of the atmosphere that we find ourselves in, both federally and across the country, makes many of us worry about what people think of those of us who serve. We all want to think and believe and know that if you do work for the public, that you've got the good of the public at heart, and that there's nobody in this enterprise at all for personal gain. And I believe the bills that we are signing today, I'm signing them, but that would not have happened but for the leadership of these wonderful members of the General Assembly standing with me, really do one more time increase the transparency of state government and again puts down another mantra for ethics in North Carolina. I'll continue to say, as long as I'm governor, that I'll do everything I can do to set North Carolina's government straight. That's the commitment that we've all made. Now, these reforms cover 5 areas. They're very in-depth. I'll just abbreviate and summarize them. One of the most important things I think that the piece of legislation does is to extend the gift ban, and it extends the standards of ethics that I have laid out for the people who work for me in the cabinet to all state employees, not just those in the cabinet. Y'all, that is a big deal. That is a major change, and we will be, I believe, one of the very few, if not the only state in the country to have that kind of barometer. Number 2, it puts additional limits on the influence, or the perceived influence, of business and money in politics. And that's a very good thing for North Carolina. It prohibits public servants, as part of that number 2, the influence of business. There are really 2 or 3 sections. I'll outline 2 of them. One of the sections that I thought was important as I reread the legislation yesterday was the prohibition from people who work for the state from awarding state contracts to businesses in exchange for the promise of employment after the state employee leaves state government. Now, one would think that never happens, but obviously we've had cases of where it may have happened or did happen. And this just puts down the line in the sand. It's illegal in North Carolina to do that. This also increases the criminal penalties on people who intentionally violate campaign finance laws. That's critically important to those of us who find ourselves in positions of raising money. So I believe it's a 2-way street, and this law clarifies that. The third thing overall that the piece of legislation does, and if you haven't read it, you should, because it's very intricate. It continues to close that revolving door that we know really does go on between state government and the private sector. It prohibits now not just legislators, as the law currently is, from registering to lobby within the 6 months, but now it prohibits state employees. So if I work for DOT and I leave DOT, I cannot legally lobby for at least 6 months after I have left that employment. Some of us will continue to try to make that cooling off period longer than 6 months. The fourth thing it does is actually, I believe, attach part of the pay-to-play comments that I've heard in the press, that executive board members or council of state members have to disclose, and their donors have to disclose, campaign contributions to people who appoint them. The DOT board already does that. I did that with an executive order. The General Assembly has just expanded that now, so it's a requirement for all appointments. That's a good thing for North Carolina. We all need to know. It doesn't prohibit anybody from giving or raising money, but it does lay it right out there for everybody to see. And that's the way it should be, if we indeed mean what we say about transparency. 5, it throws more light on state government records, and that's been a conversation that the General Assembly and I've had with many of the folks across the state and the press corps for the last several months. I continue to believe, and the law now clarifies that with the help of the Speaker and both the Republican and the Democratic Party and these leaders up here, that once something's in the public domain, it belongs in the public domain, so that all of my salary and all of my employment histories are fair game for public record, not just the current information that simply made no sense to me. You know, that's just kind of a no-brainer. It's been public once before, it should certainly stay public. And the General Assembly ratified that piece of the content. This law, number 6, increases the transparency for independent campaign expenditures that are made by corporations or by unions. This is the piece of the legislation that I think I am most concerned about from the federal level. None of us have the power in North Carolina to change the Supreme Court's decision in the Citizens United case. And whether you agree or disagree with it, I don't care. I know how I feel. I believe that the General Assembly did the right thing in trying to continue to make any of that independent giving transparent in North Carolina. So North Carolina decided not to wait for Washington. They went ahead and helped us identify who is responsible for what ads that you're going to see or hear on the radio or TV or on the internet this fall and for falls to come. If somebody puts money in the business of trying to influence voters, many of us believe that there should be some shine on those intentions. This has been a remarkably important bipartisan effort for the General Assembly. I can't tell you how proud I am of you all for the leadership and the commitment and the hard work that has gone on not just this piece of ethics legislation, but on the prior ethics bills. As I have looked around the country, and I say this in all candor and with such pride in North Carolina, as I've looked around the country, I really can find no state that has been any more aggressive as this state has been on ethics and on transparency. All of us who serve for North Carolina, whether we serve in elected or appointed positions or paid positions as state employees, really do understand that we are public servants and that our work and our service belongs to the public and that it's fair game for the people of North Carolina, and they, more than having fair game, have a right to know what we do and what we're about. It's our obligation and responsibility as those who carry the public trust. So I will sign the bill. I'm going to ask the Speaker and Representative Glazer, others who might want to say something.